Hello everyone, myself Harsheen Kaur. I'm a counseling psychologist and a play therapist. Today I will be talking about managing negative behavior in children and adolescents. There are many reasons due to which negative behaviors in children arise. Also, there are various techniques which can be used to manage these negative behaviors. Patience are important, but there are certain techniques which can be used to endure and improve the negative behaviors in children. Before we talk about various techniques that can be used to manage the negative behaviors, let's look at the reasons due to which the negative behaviors take place in children. Now, the reasons due to which the negative behaviors take place are lack of attention, over attention. Another reason could be a birth of a sibling due to certain clashes in the family or parental divorce or separation. Next reason could be transition from a preschool to a higher school. Now, the very first negative behavior that can be seen in children could be temper tantrums. Now, temper tantrums are something which are seen in children who are as small as 9 months to 15 months. Now, temper tantrum is a very first phase of aggression. Aggressive behavior arises, but the initial phase is temper tantrums most of the times in younger children. Now, when I will be talking about negative behaviors, I will be talking about them in a particular pattern. So, first we'll be talking about negative behaviors in toddlers, then in preschoolers, then in the school going kids, that is from age 6 to 12, and then in adolescents. Now, so in the toddlers, that is from around 9 months to 2 years of age, kids do show temper tantrums, as I spoke about previously. So this is a very initial phase of aggression wherein the child shows certain behaviors such as hitting self, biting, pushing, head banging, so as to achieve things which he or she desires to. Now, there are certain techniques which can be used appropriately so as to suppress these behaviors. The very first thing that the parent can do is to set a prominent schedule, setting a eating schedule, a sleeping pattern, a proper play pattern so as to keep the child occupied throughout the day can be done by the parent so as to reduce negative behaviors and to keep the child occupied and get the desired behaviors out from them. Another thing that a parent can do is respond to the baby very promptly and give the child a lot of attention whenever the child is looking at the parent. So if the parent is changing the child's diaper, the parent can talk to the child by saying, "Oh, what's mama doing? Mama's changing baby's diaper." So having a quick interaction with the child, giving the child feedback of what the parent is actually doing at that point of time, so as to make the child happy and to make them understand that I am also happy while I'm interacting with you, might help to reduce the episodes of temper tantrums in children. Another thing could be talking to the children and so talking to the children and expressing self a lot. So if at all the child is looking at daddy and the daddy is watching TV, so maybe you can say, "Oh, dad's watching TV. What's in the TV? There's a monster in the TV." So a very quick interaction or feedback giving session can happen so as to interact with the child, so as to pull the child into the conversation and letting the child seek the attention he or she desires at that point of time, and also to create a very good rapport with the children. These techniques could be very helpful. Now, with toddlers, it is also important that the parent understand that their expectations of a child listening to them. Like, for example, if you say, "No, don't do that," the parent really cannot expect the child to understand whatever he or she is wanting them to understand. Like if you say, "No, don't do that," the child might not really stop. So again, it is important to be quick enough to stop the child from do that. So if the child is going to touch a hot cup of tea and you don't want your child to do that, maybe you can give them a feedback no, don't do that, or maybe don't touch the cup, it's hot, and simultaneously go and stop the child from doing that. So it is important to give a prompt feedback, but also be quick enough to go and stop the child from doing so. Again, next could be the next technique is timeout. So timeout for a child who is as small as 2 years could be taking away the desired thing of the child, or maybe putting the child in a place where he or she cannot be indulged into any activity of their choice. So for a child who is this small, could be placed on a bed and all the toys could be taken away. Nobody should be talking to the child, and no attention to be given to the child, but also simultaneously the parent needs to keep a passive eye for security reasons, for keeping an eye so that the child doesn't get hurt, doesn't harm self, doesn't hit self, doesn't bite self. So keeping all these things in mind, you need to give time out to the child, also keeping eye that the child doesn't harm him or herself by doing anything which is inappropriate. Another thing is ignoring temper tantrums. Now, there are times, by the age of 2, the parent does understand that this is the time when my child sleeps. So there are these behaviors, certain set behaviors of a child, that when they are sleepy, they don't really sleep. They want to engage into a particular activity, and then if you stop them by chance, they start to cry, they start to scream. So now that you know that this is the time that my child has to sleep, and again at just before that particular time the child starts to cry for no reason, or for some reason which is something that you cannot really provide your child with. So at that point of time, it is good to ignore that temper tantrum and let the child just cry for few minutes. Again, when it's time for sleep, the child might as well go and sleep. But then ignorance here would play a great role so as to not stretch this behavior for a little longer, and then by ignoring this could suppress the behavior immediately. Another reason, another technique that can be used for toddlers could be avoid to reinforce the undesired behaviors. So now all children are cute. Every child speaks in a fashion which is really very appealing to the parents. They like when their child speaks certain things. But then, again, it is important if your child is saying something which is not good. For instance, if the child is using a bad word which might sound cute at that particular time, but a bad word is a bad word. So laughing, smiling, telling it to the other person that look what he said or what she said is really not something which you should do. So ignore that and reinforce it in a way that it should be reinforced it by saying a firm no, not allowed, rather than laughing or smiling or telling it to somebody else by referring and stretching that behavior for long run. Another thing could be so it's also important to understand that it's a smaller age, their understanding is less, and here you need to be very patient. You need to be doing and using these techniques for a longer time, so that this behavior, the modification behavior, takes place in the child, and the child starts to understand that okay, if I'm doing this thing, the reaction is going to be in this manner. So as for them to process it, you need to be really very patient and consistently be doing these activities with them. Alright, so the next thing is we're talking about the preschoolers, which is from age 2 years to 6 years. Now, when we talk about the preschoolers, their understanding is quite well developed by now, and it's important to be very vocal and to be very interactive with them. So first of all, it's important to catch the good things of your child. If your child has something really good, like for example, if your child holded your hand while you were taking the child to the school, so appreciate it. I'm so happy that you hold my hand while we were going to the school. You did not run. I'm so happy. So telling them which good behavior of your child made you happy is important, and by doing this, it might also increase such good behaviors from your children. Another thing could be yeah, so parents need to ignore the small temper tantrums by the children. Again, when we talk about age 2 to 6 years, the temper tantrums still continue. There are still certain things that the children do, but then ignorance could be a better way of dealing with it. So you know that this is a behavior that comes out, ignoring it, not giving any feedback, or not really indulging into it with any conversation, or just by consoling the child, just staying back, just passively observing it and watching that the child is not harming him or herself is important. But ignorance works the best with kids, by not giving them any feedback. Another thing is, do not present things to them in, if you want to give any command, give it in a commanding manner. It shouldn't be a request, or it shouldn't be in a pleasing manner. So if you want your child to get ready for the school, it has to be, get ready for the school, you're getting late, rather than please get ready for the school or you will be late. So there's a difference. If you want to be firm and it has to be in a commanding manner, it should be said in a commanding manner. Next thing could be, also, while you are giving any command to your child, if you want your child to be doing 2-3 things at a stretch, so understand your child's potential. If your child will be able to do it in a long stretch, is it going to be possible for the child to do follow 3 commands back to back? So you know your child's potential. If they can, nothing like it. But if they cannot, they might get frustrated, they might get angry. So it's important to break those commands. Say for example, okay, get up from the bed now and go brush your teeth. First command fulfilled. Another, brush is done, great. Now wear your pajamas and your t-shirt and come down. So he shall wear the pajama, wear the t-shirts and come down. Fetch the plate from the drawer and have your breakfast. So the third command is fetching the plate from the drawer and having breakfast. So instead of telling the child, go do the brush, come out, wear your pajama, t-shirts and come down for breakfast, this is like a long thing for a child to process and do. You can break it into 3 and appreciate the child after fulfillment of each and every command. Next thing is, as I said earlier, you need to ignore the low-lying behaviors. If the behavior is not really something it needs to be entertained or reinforced to, it needs to be ignored. So ignoring works best with these behaviors and for kids of these age, and that should be done, because all the behaviors, if attended to, should will also give rise to negative behaviors or more such negative behaviors. Yeah. So timeout again. As we gave timeout to the toddlers, it is also important to give timeout to these kids. Now, when we talk about giving timeout to a child who is of 2 to 6 years of age, it is important that the timeout is followed in a very appropriate manner, wherein all the rules, all the guidelines are followed. The guidelines include that they cannot really play with the toy. They have to stand away. They have to turn towards the wall and stand. They did not switch on the TV. They cannot operate any electronic device. They cannot talk to anybody. So being firm, giving them the guidelines, making sure that during the time of timeout they're not really indulged into any activity which is of their interest. And if all these things are done thoroughly, the timeout would be a success, and the reason because of which the timeout was given would be understood better by the child, and there are like chances that this behavior will not be repeated in future. Also, one more thing that I would like to say is that if the timeout is being given to the child once for a particular mistake, and then again if the child does that mistake and the parent doesn't give the timeout, then this learning might develop in the child that, okay, this time she must have forgot, means every time I won't get punishment, or every time I won't get a timeout. So it is also important on the parental part to give the punishment or to give the timeout every time on a behavior which was undesired or of a similar type. So consistency and working in a similar pattern, or giving similar reinforcements for similar negative behaviors is important. Again, it's important if the two siblings have fought. I mean, if there is a fight between a brother and a sister and both of them were equally responsible, both of them should get equal amount of punishment with similar guidelines, so that further negative behavior shouldn't get arised. Yeah, so this is really important to keep in mind. This is again a way of good parenting and good managing of children's. Okay, now using reward for good behavior, it is also important to give rewards for their good behavior. If anything is done in an appropriate manner, they should get rewarded. They should get reinforced. A good reinforcement, a positive reinforcement should be provided to the child. The child needs to be appreciated often, because this is the age when the child starts to understand actually what is happening in the environment, and good people are appreciated, good behaviors are appreciated. So it's good to give them a positive regard. Again, talking about the school aged children, that is children from 6 to 12 year of age. Now the things that we spoke, the techniques that we spoke for the toddlers, and the techniques that we spoke for the preschoolers, were the basic ones. I mean, the basic level negative behaviors were reported with basic level techniques. Now when we talk about 6 to 12 years, they have a really good understanding. There's a lot of competition, there's a good amount of social interaction. The child interacts a lot with the parents, as well as with the teachers, with the peers. So there's a lot of imitations. The child start to do a lot whatever happens in the environment. So again, it is also important to understand that why is the child behaving in this particular manner. Until now most of the interaction was, most of the child interaction was with the family members or with the parents probably. But now that the child has stepped out for longer hours in a day, the child is interacting with a lot many people. And now you need to understand that the negative behavior, or such type of a behavior which is not really desired, might come from different sources. So understand, and responding to this behavior, whatever reaction the parent is going to give to the behavior, is also very important. So think before you respond why the child is doing that, because the reason should be known at first place. So again, you need to catch the good behavior of the child, appreciate the good behavior of a child, reinforce positively. A lot of good reinforcement should take place. Now model appropriate coping skills. Now again, when you talk about modeling appropriate coping skills, children of this age might get lower grades, or might not pass in a particular exam. So they might be tense, they might come home, they might want to share their experience at school, or tell the parent what happened or what grades they have got. So if the child comes up and says, I've failed in a particular subject, rather than scolding the child abruptly and talking to the child in a rude manner, the parent can sit and talk and decide what all things can be done so as to achieve better grades next time. So there are two things that are going to happen. First, the child is going to easily open up to the parent, and the second is there's going to be a good rapport. The child won't be scared to talk to the parent even in the hardest of times. So it is on the parent how they want to react to it at first place. But if the reaction is in an appropriate manner, and if this coping technique has been followed by the parent, a good relationship can be developed for sure. Another thing that the parent can do is so it is also important to give reason. The parent needs to give reasons to the child. For example, if the parent wants the child to do this particular thing, so the child might say, why do you want me to do this? So before even the child asks why, the parent should say. So as many as reasons are given by the parent to the child, the better and the greater the bond develops. So for instance, if the parent wants the child to get ready, and there's a reason behind which the parent wants the child to get ready quickly, so the parent needs to say, dear, please get ready quickly as the driver is waiting on the gate. So here the getting ready quickly was told by the parent, but the reason also was attached along with the statement, because the driver is waiting down. It's not me who wants you to get do it in a hurried manner, but then someone is waiting, so we need to be quick. So yeah, putting reasons along with the request or along with the command would strengthen the relation and would reduce the negative behavior in the children. Now it's also important for the parent to be little less protective and let the child suffer the consequences. Say for example, the child is really good at home, but doesn't really follow things in the school, and for that instance the child forgot to take a notebook to the school, or the child did not complete a homework of a particular subject, and therefore the child was given a timeout, or the child was given a punishment of not not allowed to come for the picnic, or not being allowed to sit in the classroom. So if any sort of punishment or reinforcement has been given by the school teacher to the child, let the child face it. Do not complain to the teacher that why are you doing it. Get the complaint a little get the punishment a little shorter, or let the child attend it. I mean, this way you are supporting their behavior, and you're putting the teacher wrong in front of your child's eye. So it's important to console the child at that point of time. I understand she gave you this, but then you did not do your homework. I understand this happened, but then it is also important for you to be careful and extra careful next time. Not only careful, but really extra careful, so that you don't miss to do her homework. And not only her homework, make sure you don't miss to do any homework. So positively putting the thing to the child, talking to the child, not scolding, not really yelling at the child, but being very optimistic and putting all the things in a very appropriate manner to the child is also very important here. So now let's talk about the negative behaviors in adolescence, which is 12 years and above. So by the time the child is adolescent, the modification or the change in from a negative behavior to positive behavior solely depends on the rapport of the child with their parents. So the better the bond, the better the outcome of positive behaviors and modifications can take place. So the three major techniques that the parent need to use with an adolescent are compromise, negotiation, and reasoning. So the more the conflict, the greater the negative behaviors. So it's important for the parent to sit and understand, or to sit and listen to what the child has to say. On the other hand, it is also important for the parent to express their view. Now for instance, if the child wants to go out for party, and the party place is really far from their home, so what the parent can do is sit and listen to what the child has to say. Once the child is done, the parent can also say their part, that the major concern of not sending the child to that particular place is the place is very far, and at that point of time even the parent is occupied, so the parent cannot really go and drop the child. So sitting, talking, and taking out a midway. So rather than going to a place which is so far, you can maybe visit a place which is nearby, so that even I am not bothered that you are out and you'll be late. So finding a midway, telling them listening to their point of view, telling them your point of view is really important, and really something that a parent should be doing. Another thing is using problem solving. So using problem solving, using greater coping skills is also very important, like we did for the schoolers, that is for the kids from 6 to 12 years, wherein the child failed or got lower grades. So the parent sticked around the child and found a way in which they can get a better grade, or maybe they can get a better score next time. So here it's important to work on the problem solving with the adolescents. So the major problem which the parents come up with is that the child doesn't tell before going to a particular place, or the child hides it, or the child comes home late. So here it is important to sit and discuss with the child. It is not that I don't want you to come home early, or I don't want you to go along with your friends somewhere, but I was just concerned that where did my child go after classes. The class left at 4 and you weren't home till 6. I was very much bothered. So here you are showing the child that you really care and you really wanted to know where you were exactly. So when a particular desire or a particular opinion goes in a very subtle manner, it is very likely to be understood by the opposite person. So child might understand, and then maybe a problem solving technique or a midway can be set in which you can ask the child, so it's okay, you went, I don't mind you going there, but at least you could have called me. So maybe next time onwards, whenever you're going anywhere after the classes, you can give me a call and inform, so that I am not bothered behind. So this way the child and parent rapport or the bond can be developed stronger. And yeah, so a problem could be solved in a very easier manner without the parent getting bothered for a longer time. Another thing could be yeah, so as I said, listening to what your child has to say, now again expressing what you have to say, finding better coping skills, finding better problem solving skills, again majorly building a really good relationship with your child by listening to them, also by reasoning them. So if your child wants to do something and you don't want your child to do that particular thing, so reason why you don't want to do them to do that. Say for instance, if the child wants to go out, and there is this time that a child wants to go out, so you are really in two minds whether to send or to not send. So reason them. I am thinking. It's not that I'm saying no. Let me think. Let me talk to your father. Rather than just being quiet, or rather than just saying a no firmly, it could really hamper your relationship. You can reason the child by saying, okay, wait, let me think, give me some time. So here it is important to be really very flexible with the child and really be reasoning to the child in a greater manner so as to maintain the relationship. Yeah, so here were a few techniques to manage the negative behavior in children. I hope you find this video informative. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.